I had stopped with the commentary on like political and racial issues because, I accepted the representation of those who offered one, and I just figured, never the twain would meet. Agree to disagree, and everybody will see in their end. But in regards to this thing in Memphis, where these supposed law enforcement officers beat a man to death, I just had to offer this a little bit. I don't mean to. I doubt it'll be long. But as I've said before, I grew up. I was raised in a Pentecostal church, strict Pentecostal. I mean, strict adherence to what the scripture said. When I was little, no movies, women didn't wear pants, and a lot of extracurricular activities. No perm in your hair, and really restrictive. And we thought it was ridiculous then, but now at this point in my life, I realized you let a little bit in, a little bit turn into a lot. Now, I bring that up because I remember we used to sing a hymn at the start of service. It's really meditative. It led into the opening prayer. And it was supposed to help usher you into a state of mind where you can really offer praises to what we call God. And it would start off with a charge to keep I have, and a God to glorify. The person that was leading it, excuse me, line by line, call and response. And it struck me that the charge I must keep is nothing more than an oath. One you take willingly, knowingly, to adhere to the principles of the book, all that you agree with. And in so doing, the glorifying of a God who gave you the guidelines. So you took an oath to follow the guidelines. Now that's religion, spirituality. These police officers take an oath also, willingly, knowingly, free will, that you're going to adhere to the Constitution. Now I know that's hilarious to a lot of people because a lot of people agreed to the overthrow of our democracy in the seat of our democracy. Get mad at me if you must, but supposedly that used to mean something. But now again, I accept the fact that a lot of people didn't give a damn. Policing in this country started with slave patrols. And these are people that would venture out. If they came across a free person of a certain color, melanin, they were just as apt to kidnap that person and bring him back down south and sell him into slavery. But now, I don't remember them. They had an oath to something else. They didn't have an oath to uphold the Constitution, the guidelines. And their free will allowed them to do any and everything. These police officers, these law enforcement officers, took an oath, and it didn't mean did the squat. And that's what we've been dealing with. You demand that we obey something that they never had respect for. And you might say, well, you know, they were dealing with a certain people. No, it ain't real till it hurt. You don't save your best conduct to people that are on the best conduct and say you're of a strict accordance. These are people that did not care one iota about everything this country supposedly stands for. I'm not going to say every law enforcement officer, but it's bigger than the worst. The worst of the worst. But the crew that they want us to say that, oh, well, you know, I'm a good. You knew. They knew. No law enforcement officer I ever talked to could deny knowledge of a crew that they knew shouldn't have had a badge. Now, I don't know exactly what they could have done, but the same way this Scorpion crew was supposed to go and suss out the potential crimes and hotspots, really trying to be predictive and stop something before it happened. Those supposed good cops should have done something to get these guys. They languish in agencies far too long, and they violate the rights of people. The guidelines, they violate the guidelines, code of conduct, the very thing that we're supposed to have trust in. They violate all of that. But this thing, this is the closest that you know we come across to the vicious beating that Rodney King took. This was vicious. And I personally believed it was something personal about this attack. They didn't do anything according to standard. And I've been hearing people say, I purposely waited a while because I didn't want to react out of emotion. This is something personal. One of those guys had something against Mr. Nichols because all they needed was the opportunity, and they jumped on him with a vengeance. And I'm just surprised it took 3 days for him to die. He should have been dead at the scene. With all that kicking and, oh my gosh. I've been hearing people say, oh, this is not who we are. And I beg to differ. If we were anything other than what we are, we would have something different than what we have. The climate that we're in, we said through lethargy, just mean-spiritedness or deception. We did everything necessary to get right where we are. But even then, there's no... The viciousness of that beating. We are in trouble. After the opening lines are at him, the second part of the first verse, let every dying soul be saved and fitted for the sky. You're supposed to take your oath all the way to the grave. the whole experience is about ascension. You climb to the standard. We've been busy lowering standards and ushered in chaos, confusion, a fertile ground for deception. Everything you're seeing now just thoroughly lacking in sense. That's the only way you would have a crew of people carrying badges, law enforcement officers, so willing to beat the absolute out of a guy. You can't tell them they didn't know this. As long as they knew to lie when they were beating them, stop resisting, covering up the body cams. They didn't know about the camera up on the pole. Stop resisting. Put your hand, give me your hand. They got his hands. 2 officers holding him. He's subdued. He's not resisting. He's getting the hell beat out of him. Look at where we are. You can't say he deserved it, because he didn't. They rolled up on him, got out of the car, and snatched him out of the car. Now, this is a traffic infraction. There's no need for them to put his hands on it. They could write the ticket if they had ticket books, because this was an elite unit. And they only use traffic stops as a pretext to escalate what they really want to do. I've been disappointed in my life, but this was disheartening. I'm not shocked, but this was disheartening. It made no sense. And look, with the ease in which they did this, this wasn't their first time. Everyone's praising this, the chief, the lady that's in charge. I'm not praising her. It's good she fired him. She had to. She's covering her butt. But she's allowed them to do this. She allowed them to get to the point where they could act like that. Somewhere down the line, I believe they're going to fire her too. Because these guys should have been checked a long time ago. This was beyond mean. And if you're fitted for the sky, this never happens. Now, if you got any concept of your soul, this doesn't happen. We are in trouble. All of us. Because this thing is breaking down.